Hey, you're watching Wildcat Behind the Page, and this is CB Smallwood, the creator of Wildcat and stuff. Now, what you're looking at is some actual pages from the comic. For those of you that are new to the channel that will take the time to look at this. I sounded kind of smug, didn't it? I didn't mean it to sound that way, but you know what I mean. But anyway, basically, for those that don't know, these videos are just basically a behind-the-scenes look at the making of the first issue, and maybe beyond that, well, definitely beyond that, of the Wildcat comic book series. And currently on the first issue, I've got all the inks done except for one page, and I'll get into that for a second. And so I just kind of wanted to show a little bit of progress of what I've done, and I think this will probably be the first video in a while that I've actually kind of doodled a little bit, and maybe even ink. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. So here we are on page 21, and Wildcat is in the bed type thing, and here I am being clever, leaving this big negative space to where if I was actually a super talented writer, I could fill this up with a bunch of gobbledygook. It's really artful for the ears and food for the brain. And but anyway, left that space there for me to fill it up with stuff, and where it doesn't have to actually touch the artwork. You know, I could always put a little something here, maybe. Probably not necessary, but still have that option. Moving on down. I like the storytelling on this page. I mentioned it before. Now, you can't really tell, but like if you look right here where I'm pointing the lead at with the pencil, let me zoom in and see if it'll, you see this? I'm not sure if that actually erases. Let me see here. No, it don't erase. So anyway, let me zoom back out. Those pencil marks, some of them, are actually from the photocopy that was made of the original pencils, and so they don't really come out. And it's, you know, trial and error. You learn things, and I always view these type of little things as part of the process. You know, the comic isn't finished, and so as we go from pencil, as we go to ink, and as we go to, you know, I guess color and all these different other mediums, you know, everything gets tightened up a lot more and things get improved a lot more because it's all part of the process. And I think, to me, you know, by the time you get to the lettering, you know, that's like the final step, you know. So the final tidying up step, you know, the final layer of art. But anyway, I really like the panel layout that I did for this, to pat myself on the back. It's not mind-blowingly awesome or nothing like that, but what I like about it is, you know, I got 4 panels here, and I'm showing, it kind of gives the sense that there's actual movement going on here a little bit. That's what I like about it. And then here's this panel kind of breaking up the eyeball business, and you kind of get a better idea of what's actually happening. Moving on down to the bottom panel, you know, some more good storytelling. Now, this picture of Wildcat's head isn't too keen, but they all can't be winners, you know. And as I continue to draw comics and hone my craft, you know, stuff will look better and better. You know, stuff that I will consider sloppy, other people may consider gold. But right now, I think we can all agree that this is kind of like a sloppy head. But like, it doesn't have to be a super awesome head, because the main thing, in my opinion anyway, is this eyeball thing. You know, it just came out of his eye socket. And I had a little bit of trouble showing it coming out of the eye socket, because I think realistically, though I'm not for sure, that if you've got a fake eye and it comes out of your eye socket, you know, you still got the flap of skin that goes over the eye. So that would have been kind of hard to render and show people that it came from that same spot. So I had to kind of stretch the laws of anatomy, I guess, and just left kind of like this void. So like that way it would give the impression that that's where it came from. And then over here, I think this sunshine, sunshine. There we go. I think this sunshine is probably not really necessary to draw because the colorist can come in and color stuff, and you know, I still have a chance to white it out if I really, really want to. But the rest of that, you know, I think looks pretty cool. I like how my leaves and stuff are looking. What time I was talking about pencil marks earlier, and some of these things don't erase. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if this will mess up the focus or not, but I got a can of this Speedball Super Pigment acrylic ink, and it does decent. I have to basically, you know, take and you know, take some brush and then dip it in the white ink, and then I have to, you know, apply it and stuff like that. And then usually I have to do like maybe 3 layers to really get a lot of the whatever I want to get out. But I have to say, as far as like getting rid of mistakes, this is not the ideal tool in my opinion. You know, so if you're somebody that's thinking about getting this is probably not the best mistake get rid of her out there. But this is a handy, in my opinion, a handy art tool. And what you can do with it, I'll show you on the next page what you can do with this. But anyway, so we got trees. The trees are looking pretty cool overall. And then boom, a blast from the eye. So now we're going to go to page 22. Now on page 22, I don't know if you remember the actual pencils to this, but on page 22, the pencils were really, really, really rough. I mean, like it really, I really didn't do pencils on this. But in my opinion, I didn't have to, because I kind of already knew what I wanted to do, and I didn't have to really fill in a lot of details because it just wasn't necessary, in my opinion. Now, I want to also say that I'm a little torn because as I was inking this with black ink, I like this effect, this splattering effect. So I'm not sure if I should keep that. Or sorry about that. My camera quit filming for some stupid reason. So anyway, not sure what I should do. I think the smart thing is to keep the line straight, because that's what I did on the last panel. So to keep a bit of consistency. But I gotta say, this is awfully cool, really. I mean, it could break up into space as it's traveling out, but I don't know. I think the straight line is the way to go, the smart way. But artistically, it looks awesome this way. Now, I mentioned earlier about the white ink, things that you can do with it. That's kind of cool. Is you can take and dip your brush and go dot 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 dot, you know, and make you some stars and stuff like that. So that's what I did here. I think, I'm not really for sure, there might be some people that may actually take a brush and dip it in white ink, and then they just kind of do this. But I didn't want to do that because I felt like I wouldn't have had a certain level of control with this, because once you flick it off like that, you have no idea what kind of splatter pattern is going to go on the page. And the other thing is, I didn't want to run the risk of making it look like blood splatter, you know, the way it travels out. So there's a certain discipline to doing ink that way with a brush. But like if you're going to do a blood splatter effect, then putting it on a toothbrush and then doing this is as ideal. But for me personally, I think just taking your white ink or whatever, or acrylic paint, which I probably do just the same thing, and just dipping it, going dot, 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 dot. I could have used this, but I'm finding that these whiteout pens aren't always consistent with getting the white ink out of them, or the whiteout out of them, I should say. And these do decent. These do a decent job. This is a Uniball Signo, okay, and that does decent, you know. But this worked best for me on this, and I think it turned out pretty good. I want to say one other thing about this white ink before I quit talking about it. If you buy a bottle of this stuff, always shake it before you use it, because what ends up happening is all the white particles, they settle down to the bottom, and then you got this big layer of ugly water that's about this tall in this thing. So you got to shake it to get it to mix all together, and then even then you got to unscrew it. And you ever bought like a bucket of paint, and you have to stir the paint first? Well, you have to do the same stupid thing with this stuff. I just took a brush out of the thing, and you can already see on the end here the white paint, and I had to stick it down in here and then try to, you could feel the mud, that white mud, and having to stir it up, and then I had to shake it. And then you know, when I went to apply corrections and stuff like it, it looked a lot better, and it just made everything a lot better. And also Black India ink, you need to shake that too, for those that don't know. Which, you know, most of y'all already know this stuff, but if I happen to think of it, you know, it's a cool little tip, then I like to share it, you know, save somebody a lot of trouble. So moving on from that, we got these 3 panels. Some cool storytelling going on there, I think, in my opinion. Pat on the back. Now, originally, if you saw the original pencils, the eyeball was about this size. You know, the way I drew it on the page, it's like the size of this circle right here, right? And I realized that drawing it that way was really bad out of perspective, and it made it seem like the window was at this angle instead of here, to the left of him, or that would actually be to his right, but whatever, to the left of the reader. So I erased that eye, and I went and basically just made the eyeball smaller, you know. And then here we go, we got this going on, and then we get to the bottom panels, and this is the cool part, you know. This is the big build up to something that I want to show you guys and gals. This is the introduction to a new villain, and this is a very important villain. And he gets hit by the blast that came from the eye, whatever that blast was, and he's kind of dormant looking, just kind of floating in space. And I think I did a decent job with, you know, kind of showing the floating in space thing. And then here he kind of springs to life. There's his eye doing his thing, and it goes brum. So I kind of had the idea it's more of like a mechanical sound is what I was going for, instead of it like, you know, something coming from his throat doing that. And notice this black space, you know, you see space here, space here, space here, because there's this big hole in his head. And it's not that so much that there's a hole in his head, that's just how he is naturally. So with all that out of the way, let's see, let me take a peek here. Let me get my stuff together. So yeah, so anyway, I decided to sit down and like start designing the character and stuff like that. And I apologize that I don't have stuff flowing on the page evenly, but there's a lot of stuff I want to hide that you see. There's See this stuff here? There's some notes that I want to keep secret because I don't want to reveal all the stuff to you guys just yet, until you get a chance to read stuff. So there we go. Here is the concept design I did of tentatively called Chronos. All right, there he is. There's Chronos, and Chronos is a big deal. He's a major villain, and I put the Death Dealer bit in there. I really like the font calligraphy on that Death Dealer bit. That's just a nickname, but the actual nickname that I'm going to go with is the Death Bringer. Death Dealer, I could still use that, but it harkens back to Frank Frazetta. I think that's his last name. But anyway, so I don't want to go quite that route. But yeah, the Death Bringer is what it'll probably end up being. But his name is Chronos. And Chronos is kind of like a cybernetic being, and there's inspiration from different characters, from different comics and different things that I grew up with, and it's all just poured into this one entity. So, with that out of the way, let me show you now what I've been working on, okay, here recently. So I did some concept sketches, not concept sketches, but I kind of sketched out the possible page 23. There's been just 22 pages in the comic book, but I felt like the way that it ended, which is shot by a power blast, and then he starts laughing, and and I felt like by putting continued next issue might be a bit hokey. It might not just do it justice enough, and so I felt like there's something more epic that I could do with that. So I started, plotting, how this would look like as a splash page, with the next page. Adding a next page. So I decided to add a next page. And here is the original design. Here he is, he's awake, he's aware, and now he's got flames coming out of his head, filling that, hollow space that was once nothing. He's got a laugh going on, and here's the Earth. Now he's not actually holding the Earth in his hand, but it's a hologram. It's a hologram, because he got sent basically coordinates about where that eye was at, and then we got the menacing laugh, and then we got this hourglass, right? And it says 100 days to Earth, and that to me personally, I think that's a nice touch. I don't know what you guys and gals think, but I like the idea of that. And here's the concept. Basically, this is inspired by Spawn a little bit, but with a twist or a different take. Now, in the Spawn comic book, they had a power meter or something like that, and here, I'll go ahead and get it out. Let's see. I don't like grabbing a comic book this way. I like to actually just hold it like this, and then just gently just kind of let it do that. But anyway, let's see. I don't want to make you all dizzy. Let me kind of do this off the corner here. All right. So the way Todd McFarlane did it was, you see this timer up here? So when Spawn basically first shows up, he's at full power. And the idea, the concept is this was his power meter. And every time Spawn would use his power somehow, it would drain that meter. And so basically, once that meter reached 0, Spawn would go to hell, and then he would face like this big bad guy. So it had this dual function of, like, he's losing power and he has to spend it wisely, but also, there's a consequence to once it's all spent, And my thing is kind of the same thing, but different. It's different. That sounds kind of weak to say, but what makes it different, what I'm doing, is this is a 100 days glass. That's what this is. It's not even an hourglass. It's 100 days glass, if such a thing exists. Probably not, but in my universe it does. And as the sands fall, it's counting down to 100 days. Now, why 100 days? What's the deal with that? Well, 100 days, like basically this guy's floating in space, and it's going to take him 100 days to make it to Earth. Okay? That's it. That's the whole concept. It's going to take him 100 days to make it to Earth. And it says right here, 100 days to Earth. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but just in case, not all things are obvious. They may seem obvious to me, but, So it's going to take this guy 100 days to go from where he's at in space to make it to Earth. And the idea is, as each issue progresses, one issue could be day 99, another one could skip ahead like 5 or 6 days or something. It could be like, I don't know, like day 95, and then the next issue could be like day 86 or whatever. So I could do it any way that I want to. And then when it gets down to the final, when it gets down to day 1, then it's going to start counting down to 0 hour. And then basically the Deathbringer will have arrived at Earth. And there's going to be consequences. And you're going to see throughout the series little glimpses of the Deathbringer and what he's doing in space as the comic book continues. So here we go with another crack at it, And I tried something different. And listen, with this, what I tried differently was I felt like doing it this way, even though it looks really cool, I felt like it's kind of like a straight-on pose. It's kind of, I want to try to get away from that as much as possible. And let me, I need to angle things a little bit more. If we look at, I happen to have this comic laying around. You look at this bad guy, his torso's not facing straight at you. It's actually pointing at an angle in this direction. But it still looks awesome. And it helps to keep the comic book from looking one-dimensional, And so that's basically what I wanted to do with this. So, like, how can I do this where it doesn't look so one-dimensional? Even though it looks cool, it needs something extra. So I went the next step, and I decided to do like a zoom in and keep the rest of them still a little bit of a mystery, and then it's kind of more like at an angle coming down this way. And that's basically what I came up with. Kept all the essential elements. The only thing I don't like is I want to keep the hourglass in there because I think it's going to be an important part of the story. It's something that you're going to see at, for example, when you open up a Wildcat comic book and then you go to this page, you're going to see that hourglass and the sand. Every issue is going to fall down more and more. And then you're going to know what day it is in the Wildcat universe, until it gets down to 0 hour. And one other thing I want to point out is that this sand, I'm going to make it red because the red represents blood and death and all that sort of thing, So there's consequences. So I decided to go with this. Tried some stuff here, blah blah blah. So let's look at the actual pencils on the big 11 by 17 paper. So here we are. I have to lift it up because it's pretty big. This is page 23. And I think it's turning out pretty good. Now you can't really tell, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's faded here. You know, I know what it looks like. You know. So that's where I'm at on this comic book. Man, I've talked so hardcore this last bit, you know, and all of a sudden I go from being quiet because I'm drawing. It's hard for me to focus on talking and draw at the same time, you know. Now, if I was having a conversation with somebody and they were providing me with the feedback and stuff like that and conversation material, it's a lot easier for me to do that. But like here, I have to kind of be aware of what I'm saying and keep it interesting and piffy and all this other stuff and on point, you know. Don't like how that teeth kind of unfolded there. Let's see here. Fix it over here maybe. So the angle that's at, so might as well just erase that teeth leading up to there. Erase that teeth leading up to there and just make it black. So anyway, that's my thought process. That's where I'm at on the comic book. And actually, I have been scripting the first issue, and I'm on like page 18 or something. And I've just about got this wrapped up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pages, I'm going to take and get them photocopied. After I clean them up just a little bit more, I'm going to take and get them photocopied. I'm going to take and get them photocopied, and I'm going to try to watercolor a page or two and see how it turns out. Seriously thinking about watercoloring the whole comic, and right now, where my mindset's at, I'm thinking about just, you know, coloring and lettering the whole thing myself. And the reason is, and the reason why is, first of all, I can't really afford to pay people, even though they would add a lot of value and stuff to the comic book. I just don't have the money and the resources for that, and need to figure this nose out a little bit better. And you know, I really don't know if people's gonna be really into this book to where they want to buy it and stuff like that. So, you know, I just don't want to sink money down in a hole. But the trade-off is, you know, I'm not good at lettering, and I'm not necessarily good at coloring. And I don't want the book to suffer. So I don't want the quality of the book to suffer when I know I can do better. You know, probably with, you know, having somebody else do this or do that. But there's another reason why I kind of want to do things myself, and that's basically because I know what I want, and I know how I want things to look. And I spent last couple of years, you know, working with different people, you know, online, like being the middleman, you know, being playing editor and stuff like that, and it's just fatiguing. It's really fatiguing, you know. And, after that, I just kind of look forward to the idea of, like, I could just do everything myself, not worry about this or that. And I only have myself to blame, if something turns out looking crappy, really. Do 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 do. All right, these teeth ain't turning out too bad. I may have to lower his dentures or raise them up a little bit. Yeah, this needs to go. This thing needs to go up higher. Oh, let me tell you this: what time I'm penciling. I had to back up just then because my shoe squeaked against the chair, but I wasn't for sure because I'm paranoid about snakes. There's a lot of snakes at my house. Snakes just love me, or maybe they hate me. Maybe there's like a secret hate. I don't know, but I'm not too fond of them either. If that's the case. And I feel like this row of teeth needs to go more that way, so let's go ahead and fix that. Anyway, yeah, I killed a big snake that was crawling up the house the other day. On my front porch, there's like a bird's nest, and it had crawled up and it ate all the eggs or something. And I think it might even been a copperhead. I'm not for sure. I don't know. I'm not a snake specialist, but after acting like an ape from 2001, the movie, throwing rocks at it and cut up logs that came from a tree that we cut down, and eventually smashing it with a hoe. I've had like this thing where I'm just seeing snakes everywhere. Not actually seeing snakes, but if I hear something that sounds like one or see something in the distance, I'm super paranoid. It's sort of like when you get a tick on you, and you're like, you feel like you're covered with them, so just very, gosh, I can't stand it. I think when I get done filming, I'll probably tinker with the teeth and gums a little bit more, and I want to add a lot more details. Not sure what details those would be yet, but stuff just to make this pop just a little bit more. And but I love this. I love the way that it turned out. This is the earth, by the way. I have to go in and do this and fix this. And I don't know if you can see all that, but it's not really. But yeah. So I think I'm going to wrap up filming. This has to be at least 30 minutes. I don't know. I'm going to have a time editing this because the camera keeps shutting off. But anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm going to ink this page here soon. And got my font here. Got my hourglass. This is going to be space from behind. Flame hair. And got the haha effect. Haha. And but yeah, that's where I'm at. And again, on the script, I'm like on page 17 or 18. And I've been working on logos and everything in the world. I've been brainstorming. I mean, you name it, I've been doing it. So sorry that the updates on the Wildcat comic book haven't been that frequent for those that follow it. I've just been busy, but I have been working. I've been working on the comic, and I've been trying to grow the channel so more people can actually see my stuff, and we'll see how that goes. And anyway, I really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this. If you enjoyed this video or you want to support me, the best thing you can do right now is hit like and hit subscribe if you haven't done it already to be kept up to all my latest shenanigans. This is CB Smallwood, and I will see you in the next video.